Ever have that feeling? You study for hours. You stare at the words until your eyes feel like they're going to turn to dust. You think, okay, I got this. Then you walk into the exam or someone asks you about it the next day, and your brain is just empty, a ghost town. All that information, gone, vanished, like it was never there. It's not because you're dumb. It's because the way most of us are taught to memorize things is a total joke. It's like trying to fill a bucket that's full of holes. You pour and nothing stays. Now think about the stereotype of students in Japan. They have to memorize thousands of complex characters, formulas, historical dates. And they do it. It sticks. How? Were they all born with supercomputers for brains? Do they just study 24 hours a day? No. The secret isn't that they study harder. It's that they study smarter. And most of the methods they use are so simple, so painfully obvious once you hear them. You're going to feel a little silly for not doing them your whole life. You're out here trying to fight a dragon with a pool noodle. You're using tactics that are scientifically proven to be terrible. It's like trying to get fit by watching other people exercise. It feels like you're doing something, but you're just sitting there. This isn't about becoming a Japanese student. This is about stealing their weapons. Because right now, your study habits are leaving you weak, stressed, and forgetful. You're wasting hours of your life for almost zero return. I'm here to give you the real no-fluff playbook on how to actually make information stick in your brain. Not just for the test, but forever. We're going to perform a total teardown of your broken memory system and replace it with a high-performance engine. So, grab a notebook, not to highlight, to actually learn something. The cramming cult, your brain's worst enemy. Let's start with the biggest, dumbest mistake pretty much everyone makes. Cramming. The all-nighter. Shoving a semester's worth of information into your head 8 hours before the final. We've all done it. And it's the single most useless thing you can possibly do for your long-term memory. You think you're a hero for pulling an all-nighter. You're not a hero. You're just a sleep-deprived parrot who's going to forget everything the second you hand in your test. Congratulations. You played yourself. Your brain isn't a hard drive. You can't just drag and drop a massive folder of information into it and expect it to save properly. Memory works more like building a muscle. It needs time. It needs repetition. When you cram, you're overloading your short-term memory, which is tiny and unreliable. It's designed to hold things for a few minutes, maybe a few hours, but it was never meant to hold the entire history of the Roman Empire. The result: you might remember enough to barely pass the test. Maybe. But ask yourself this: a week later, do you remember any of it? Of course not. It's gone. You didn't learn anything. You just temporarily held information. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. It's there for a second, then it slips right through. All that stress, all that coffee, all that lost sleep for nothing. A German guy named Ebbinghaus figured this out over 100 years ago with something called the forgetting curve. Basically, we forget things super fast unless we do something to stop it. Here's the actual fix. Use spaced repetition. This is the ultimate weapon against the forgetting curve. Instead of one giant 8-hour study session, do 4 2-hour sessions spread out over a week, or 8 1-hour sessions. The idea is simple. You learn something, then you review it at increasing intervals. Maybe you review it after 1 day, then 3 days later, then a week later. Each time you review it, just as you're about to forget, you tell your brain, hey, this is important, don't throw it away. Think of it like watering a plant. You don't dump a whole month's worth of water on it at once and hope for the best. You give it a little water, consistently, over time. That's how it grows strong. Spaced repetition is watering your brain. There are apps like Anki that are built specifically for this. They use algorithms to show you flashcards right before you're predicted to forget them. It's ruthlessly efficient, but I don't have time to study every few days. Yes, you do. A quick 15-minute review session is way more effective than hours of cramming later. You spend more time than that scrolling through nonsense on your phone. You have the time, you just have bad priorities. Still think cramming works. Enjoy your temporary knowledge and permanent stress. The smart kids will be sleeping soundly while their spaced out learning builds a fortress in their brains. Okay, so you're spacing things out. Great. But what you do during that study time is just as important. If you're just staring at your notes, you're still doing it wrong. Next, we fix the laziest study habit of all, the highlighting hoax. Coloring isn't studying. The highlighter, the favorite tool of students who want to feel productive without actually doing any mental work. You end up with a page that looks like a rave party, but did you actually learn anything? Nope. Passively reading your notes or highlighting text is incredibly deceptive. It tricks your brain. You see the highlighted words and think, oh yeah, I know that. But you don't know it. You just recognize it. There's a huge difference. Recognizing is easy. It requires almost no brain power. Recalling it from scratch, like you'll have to do on a test, that's hard. And you haven't practiced the hard part at all. This is why you have that horrible blank out moment in an exam. You look at a question, and you know you saw the answer in your book. You can even picture the page, maybe the color of the highlighter you used, but you can't pull the actual information out of your head. That's because your brain was trained to recognize, not to recall. You built a library, but you have no idea how to find any of the books. It's an illusion of knowledge. Here's the actual fix. Use active recall. This is the heavy lifting of learning. Instead of just rereading a chapter, close the book. Get a blank piece of paper and write down everything you can remember. Every key idea, every definition, every formula. Or try explaining the topic out loud to an empty chair or a rubber duck. It sounds silly, but it works. Active recall forces your brain to retrieve information, which strengthens the memory pathways. Think of it like this. Reading is like watching someone lift weights. Active recall is you lifting the weights. Which one is actually going to make you stronger? Flashcards are a simple way to do this. Question on one side, answer on the other, but don't just flip it over if you don't know. Actually struggle to remember first. That struggle is where the magic happens. It's your brain building the connection. But it's so much harder and slower than just reading. Yes, that's the entire point. It's supposed to be hard. The effort is what makes it stick. If your studying feels easy, you're probably not learning anything. You're just wasting your time comfortably. Put down the highlighter. It's a security blanket, not a study tool. Your brain needs a workout, not a new coat of neon paint. So, you're spacing, you're recalling, you're building some serious memory muscle. What if you memorize the facts, but you don't actually understand them? That's the final trap we need to dismantle. The parrot problem. Memorizing isn't understanding. You ever meet someone who can spit back a bunch of complicated words and definitions but can't actually explain what any of it means? They're a parrot. They've memorized the sounds, but they have zero understanding. A lot of students fall into this trap. Memorizing isolated facts without understanding the connections between them creates brittle, useless knowledge. You might be able to answer a multiple-choice question if it's phrased exactly like it was in the book. But if the question is slightly different or asks you to apply the concept, you're toast. Because you never actually understood the why or the how. You just memorized the what. This is why so much of what we learn in school feels useless. We memorize it for the test, then immediately dump it from our brains because it was never connected to anything meaningful. It was just a collection of random data points. True intelligence, true mastery comes from understanding the underlying principles so you can use them in new situations. A parrot can repeat the word cracker, but it can't invent a new recipe for crackers. Here's the actual fix. Use the Feynman Technique. It was developed by a Nobel Prize-winning physicist, Richard Feynman, who was a master at making complicated things simple. First, take the concept you want to learn. Second, pretend you have to explain it to a 12-year-old. Use simple words. Use analogies. Don't use any of the jargon from the textbook. The magic happens when you get stuck. The moments where you have to say, or you realize you're just using big words you can't define, those are your knowledge gaps. That's where you know your understanding is weak. So, you go back to your notes, you figure it out, and then you try to explain it simply again. You repeat this process until you have a smooth, simple explanation. If you can do that, you don't just know it. You understand it. But I don't have a kid to teach it to. Teach it to your dog. Teach it to a plant. Record yourself explaining it on your phone. The act of forcing yourself to simplify and structure the information is what matters, not the audience. Stop collecting facts like they're Pokemon cards. Start building understanding. A parrot might sound smart for a minute, but a genius can build a new world with what they know. All right, let's drill this into your head one last time so it actually sticks. 1. Stop cramming. Your brain isn't a suitcase you can overstuff. Space your learning out. 2. Stop highlighting and rereading. Your brain needs a workout, not a nap. Use active recall. 3. Stop being a parrot. If you can't explain it to a kid, you don't understand it. Use the Feynman Technique. Look, these techniques aren't magic. They require effort. They require discipline. The reason so many people admire the academic discipline in places like Japan is because it's built on these principles of consistent, active, deep learning. It's not a genetic gift. It's a method that anyone, including you, use, but you have to actually do it. You have a choice. You can keep using your brain like a leaky bucket, pouring in hours of your life just to have it all drain away. Or you can start using these tools. You can start building a mind that doesn't just temporarily hold information, but actually masters it. A mind that's sharp, strong, and reliable. So, what's it gonna be? Are you gonna keep filling the bucket with holes? Or are you gonna finally patch the damn thing and build something that lasts? I mean, you tell me.